How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Good. Do we need the video?
Yeah, that'd be good. We can
Because
see the white wizard.
I am in. See where I am.
At home. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's but it's. I mean, what do you call them? I'm not in my office. I'm in the bedroom of a sort of summer house.
Well, and I always get really confused, Kjartan, about whether you're Norwegian and you live in Denmark or whether you're Danish and you live in Norway.
I am. I'm brought up in Norway. I spent most of my adult life in the UK, but I now live in Copenhagen.
See, so I wasn't far off
no.
in that.
Correct.
And where are you now then? Where's the country home?
So we are basically 2 hours from Copenhagen on one of the islands.
Oh, nice.
So we drove here this morning and for a long weekend.
And I suppose the obvious question is it you're safe and well and people, how is it all in Denmark? Because
yeah, I mean,
London is like the zombie apocalypse.
Here is great. So but it's windy, but I'm good. Apart from football, things are moving in the right direction.
Well, it had to come to it. All good records have to come to an end. As I was consoling my wife, who is obviously, as you know, a Liverpool fan from her birth and growing up, having been a scouser, and actually I think dated a number of the players, which will be for a story for probably off the podcast. But look, it's good for you to join us today. And obviously I'm introducing Ant and Chris. So Anthony is on, so not the Ant and Dec, as you probably have had the misfortune of watching their TV shows, which I'm subjected to most Saturday nights, but I do actually kind of half enjoy it with the kids. But look, I think what we are, obviously we're going to take 45-50 minutes, dig into Concentric. Obviously we've known each other for a good few years, I think probably 6 or 7 years. I think going back to times of Bloomberg, when in my case, and not when it was under the Bloomberg banner. So I think maybe as a starting point, a really good start we always find when we talk to good people on the fund star side of the business is, how did you get into VC? What was the journey, pre-VC?
I'm from the northern part of Norway. Grew up there. I then went to the UK to study, and ended up on a scholarship going to Bath University. After university, I spent a couple of years in the city, working for a couple of institutions there, and then in year 2000 I met a gentleman called Nenad Marovets. He was about to set up DN Capital. Sort of 4 of us that took part in that early journey of setting up DN Capital, the fundraising, the formation, all the setting up that a fund needs to do when they kick off. Spent 3.5 years there. So I then sort of set up with a couple of other guys a sort of merchant banking operation where we invested from the balance sheet, pan-European, so dual focus on technology and renewable energy. So we were ahead of the times then. And then in around 2013, I got introduced to my business partner, Dennis Shafranik. We had similar ideas what we wanted to do in the early, the sort of pan-European early stage tech space, and we started doing investments together. We started bringing other investors in, mainly family offices, who had an interest in the tech space, and this sort of morphed into a sort of pretty conventional sort of GPLP structure, fund structure, and so that was we had a first close in 2016 and a final close early 18, and then now we have come to the tail end of the first one.
Okay, great. And then just for people who've not really come across Concentric, because we have a lot of founders in our ecosystem, Kjartan, you know, just if you were to give them the sort of the helicopter view, you know, who you are, what's the focus, verticals, the, you know, big-ish team. I mean, I haven't been into your office for a while because of obviously lockdown, but I've seen some of the emails from new members of the team. So just kind of like, you know, if you can give us a bit of a steer on where your focus is, that would be great.
Yeah, so we are headquartered out of London. With our thesis is around investing into companies that are using software to address real problems in traditional industries. So those are verticals such as financial services, insurance, logistics, real estate, industrial applications. So areas that you and I we need to have is not is sort of not a nice to have areas, and you know, these are also sectors that are undergoing massive sort of digital transformation. A digital transformation by COVID. So in those verticals and those sectors. In terms of team, the investment team consists of 4 people, 2 partners and 2 analysts. Very closely knit team that we spent quite a lot of time putting together, and very diverse in both in skills and in terms of background and views on various things. We believe very much on diversity of thoughts, and then we have 2 people in our sort of back office. So we spend a lot of time and effort building out our back office function with reporting, the compliance, with legal, with accounting, also running database and investor relations and things like that. So 6 people in total in the core team, and then we have a couple of venture partners and the broader sort of advisory council and advisory board.
Yeah, and looking at, you know, 2021 and ahead, you know, what's it hold in store for you guys? And I suppose looking backwards over the period of COVID, you know, how have your businesses that are in the portfolio fared? Are you confident around all of them? And, you know, do you exhibit that confidence moving into 2021 as well?
Yeah, if you start with 2021, we are of the opinion, due to the sort of the general development in the world, but also what has happened over the last year or so, it has never been a better time to start a company. You have some of these underlying technologies, they are maturing at the same time. As an entrepreneur, you have tools readily available for you to start a company. You don't have to be in London or in Silicon Valley to start a company. So we think there will be, and a lot of clever people have been made redundant, or they have dared to make the jump now to start a company. And so hence it's never been a better time to start a company, but it's super hard. And because you need to combine a number of different skills, and you probably need to combine a number of different technologies in order to make the best solutions. So hence it is not an easy task. In terms of verticals, there are still areas, so large industrial verticals that
laggards when it comes to technology, and these areas will make a leap over the next couple of years, because digital they've been stress tested, and the frailties have shown. Logistics is one of the areas, and we need to be on top of that.
One of the questions I have, which I think is quite an interesting topic generally, is around being a pan-European VC. And there's two things in particular. One, do you see the same sort of locations always coming up? London, Paris, Berlin, maybe Tallinn. And what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of being pan-European when it's such a diverse geography with all of the opportunities and challenges that each location kind of has?
So in terms of Europe has come on leaps and bounds over the last really 15 years. I say since Skype was sold, that was a major milestone for Europe. In last year, probably the most valuable company coming out of Europe last year was UiPath. That was started, and the early scaling was done when they were based out of Bucharest in Romania. You have companies like Transferwise out of Tallinn. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, the tools that entrepreneurs have available means they can be setting these up in any location. The mentality has changed. The best talent no longer are chasing banking or consulting jobs. It's actually cool to work for a startup now or to be an entrepreneur. And I think we are getting there in terms of availability of capital, not only in the hubs, but there is capital available.
So I was really interested by two of the points you made around, the industrial verticals that have been laggards in terms of their acceptance of digitalization. And I'd love to hear a bit more detail on kind of which particular segments you're thinking there, that that there could be opportunities for founders to really go for.
It could be in manufacturing, it could be assembling, it can be bringing products to the market. But I think the common denominator is that we have been relying on manual labor too long and too much. And by replacing this with technology, we are able to make verticals more efficient, and we are able to make verticals more competitive. And I think that is the main challenge for particularly subscale companies that haven't been able to invest into technology before. But now the technology probably is more easily available, or will become, as the investment goes into the space. So I think robotics is one. I mean, UiPath is a perfect example in the automation space there.
So I suppose again, second question is drilling on a bit from where Anthony identified the sort of differences across Europe in sort of, I suppose, the founder or the types of businesses. I'd like to know a bit more, Kjartan, about like how does it work? How does we had Downing on the show last week. They were talking about how they co-invest a lot and do a lot with certain funds in particular, and they work a lot with some of the US funds. I'm just like curious, when you come to Concentric, is there a map? Do you have a network in Estonia, in the Baltics, and are there certain funds that you kind of share deal flow with? I'm just trying to sort of understand, how that works, and how, I suppose, following on from that, how would a founder kind of get noticed by you in that network?
Yeah. So we run. We have a pan-European approach, but the focus countries are from the Baltics through to the UK, north of the Alps. So that means core focus is the Nordics, German-speaking Europe, and UK, Ireland. And in terms of deal flow, we've been in the game for 20 years now. We have a very sort of multicultural and multinational team. Our DNA is basically to go across borders. We have investments and previous investments in all target countries, I think, apart from Latvia and Lithuania. And we generate a lot of deal flow from those countries where we have invested in the past, and we have existing relationships with accelerators, hubs, seed funds, Series A funds, etc. in all of those jurisdictions. So deal flow is coming, one, organically, and two, from us having those relationships that we have in terms of entrepreneurs and funds and advisors and service providers and alumni from previous companies, alumni from school, etc. So there's a variety of deal flow sources.
Okay, and if you know, I suppose my old friends in the press at places like Bloomberg, always very big. It's kind of a weird ecosystem because they're very big on showcasing all the success stories and not the bad news. Whereas if you look at the wider press, it's always bad news sells newspapers rather than good news. So I'm kind of curious, you know, because there are a lot of there are a lot of failures and very few successes in this space. So when you look at that sort of top 5%, as people always call it, what are you looking for in that particular company, you know, that's coming to you from Estonia or from the Baltics, you know, because you know, people are very misled, I think, by the press in this area as to how hard it is and what special qualities you need to really attract a fund like Concentric.
So in terms of type of companies we look for, so it has to fall within the sort of traditional sectors. So we don't do gaming and gambling, we don't do music, we don't do entertainment. We stay away from, apart from financial services, we stay away from regulated sectors, biotech, clean tech, medtech. It may change in the future, but at the moment we don't think we have the skill base to do a good job there. We then look at, is this a product that they solve a problem? If they solve a problem, is there demand for this, or is it going to be autonomous cars solve a problem, but demand is probably going to be 20, 25 years from now. So that we need to, is the market ready for this? Have they tested the product? Because we are not good seed investors when the product market fit hasn't been reached. So on the product and market side, that assessment, and then who are the people? Are they experienced? How do they come across? Are they ambitious? Are they humble? Are they? Do they come across as resilient and flexible? How do they communicate? Do they have energy? Do they look to be like flexible in terms of their approach to navigating funding, product, and all the challenges they will face as an entrepreneur? So people is core to what we do, because in many cases they will have to change the direction of the company or pivot the company, and you need flexible people to do that, and people who don't give up. That is also key for us. So the whole package, the product on the market with the people, and then we make an analysis. Where do they fall short, can we add value where they fall short? And we come with capital. We also come with skills and networks and experience that can make the sort of full package better than if we were to do it. They were to do it on their own.
And how involved, say, if you find that founder, you invest, how involved are you as a business in their day-to-day, their week-to-week, their month-to-month? Is it soft touch, hard, hard touch? What's the modus operandi?
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is we prefer founding teams. Single founders is a horrific job because they typically have nowhere to turn if there are issues and problems, and it's super lonely and is very much a pressurized job. So with founding teams, you always have your partner next to you or the two partners next to you, and you're typically allocated according to your skill set and experience. And in terms of what we do, we have sort of coined the term activist ventures. We wouldn't invest if the company only needed money, because money is a commodity these days, and so we need to differentiate ourselves over and above just the capital. So always part of our due diligence and our dialogue with the entrepreneur or the entrepreneurs, it is how can we add value, and this come in different entrepreneurs have different requirements. Some of them are very good at product. They're really bad with reporting. Some of them are really good at selling and marketing, but don't really understand financing. So they come in all shapes and sizes and different skill sets. So we need to differentiate our approach to these entrepreneurs. And you asked about how involved we get. So typically we communicate with our portfolio CEOs or teams on a daily and or weekly basis. It all depends on whether there's a deal going on, or whether we can working on a project with them, or there's a process going on. But we are in dialogue all the time with them, and help them directly, or we facilitate help. So some of them need help with fundraising, something that you are very aware of. So they need help in just crafting the equity story. They may need fundraising for other products than equity, maybe debt or revenue-based financing. They may need help to put them in touch with an advisor because they are not comfortable doing it on their own. They may need help to open up some doors to next stage investors. Then is all the commercial aspects. I mean, business development, partnerships, sales. So with our network or extended network, we can open up doors for potential customers. There are partnership opportunities we can open up for, and there are also the way they sell. So we take best practice and experience from other companies and use that and recycle it in new companies. And then there's areas around sort of corporate governance, reporting, etc. Some of them they haven't got a functioning board when it's set up, and you need to sort of mentor them and say it's really not only for us. You have a board, you have it for yourself. And we call it the harbor. When you've been on a voyage, you always need to take stock when you come into the harbor. And then there's areas around exit, resolving disputes between company founders, between the company and suppliers, between the company and partners. So you name it. There's a wide array of things we're getting involved in. But we got to be very careful so we don't go in and take too much on, because we are not employees of the company. We're there to facilitate and help. And you know, some entrepreneurs it takes them quite a long time to get used to our style, because they don't understand from the start that we are only there basically to help and grow the company for every shareholder. We are not there to have influence just for the sake of having influence. So some entrepreneurs, it takes 6 months before they get comfortable with us. But if you're in, and then they almost become friends for life. So.
And then I suppose, we look at looking ahead. We're still in COVID times. What are your sort of immediate thoughts on the business and this year, and on your priorities, and potentially, I know you mentioned you've completed the first fund. Are you fundraising as well? Is that a focus for the year ahead? So if and also I suppose with COVID, have you changed any of the sort of focus of what you're looking for in different verticals, or has that changed with perhaps the new fund may be more focused on COVID friendly type businesses, or accelerants as they're called? So if you could give us a bit of a shape there, that'd be great.
All right, let me many questions. I'll try to see if I can address most of them. So we, as most people, when the first lockdown came in back in March, April, there was an element of shock, and we didn't know the enemy then. But I think we did a good job in terms of stabilizing and spending a lot of time on the companies that were most affected, and coming through the summer, it was really business as usual, and particularly certain companies have come through COVID probably better than they would do if it was a normal circumstances, because of the digital sort of acceleration that has taken place. In terms of we are now in the process of fundraising for a second fund, having assembled what we think is a good portfolio in Fund 1. We are increasing the fund size by 2.5 times, from 40 to 100 million. Same strategy, investing in around the 20 companies, but it will enable us to take larger initial stakes, and it will enable us to follow on more in a more meaningful manner through Series B. So the way we see it is that we will make 20 investments, we will follow on hard in 10 of them, and about 10 of them will probably go sideways, and we'll solve them in a different way. And in terms of changes, what we see is still going to be around real sectors solving real problems, but we also see that there's a lot of challenges and opportunities in the payment space. We also see climate tech coming, but it's not when the last wave of climate tech took place. Now it's sort of anchored or rooted within prop tech, for example, and it is also being incorporated into a sort of a wider range of sectors, sort of fintech, agri-tech, transport, energy, etc. So I think it would be a broader sort of addressing a broader sort of market and areas to be utilized. And in terms of the team, we have assembled a team that is perfectly mature and capable of taking on the next phase. We may add one more person, but still on being discussed. And we're going to work hard in terms of further deploying these activist ventures. It is proven to be very successful in Fund 1. We haven't done any write-offs in Fund 1, and there are some real stars coming through now, and we will continue providing thought leadership, both on the macro level, what is required in order to take the next step for European venture capital funds and for entrepreneurs across Europe, getting more exposure from institutional investors, pension funds and insurance companies and endowments, etc. And
can I ask, Kjartan, what have you got any sense on what the appetite is like amongst those groups of people to invest in tech at the moment? Is it better now or than when you did the first fund? I'm just curious, on the barometer of kind of warmth, not just specifically towards Concentric, but in the marketplace in general.
So what has happened since over the last 10 years is that the technology has gone from being a vertical to becoming horizontal. So that means that every vertical is touching technology. And what has also happened is that on the board and CEO's agenda, probably top of the agenda is technology. And this also means that the whole ecosystem will benefit from this. So from the guy doing the R&D to us putting the money in, from the funds after us, the PE funds and the growth funds putting money in, and when the corporates are going to buy these companies to deploy it in their own companies. So very much the sentiment is very much better, and it's a must have today in order to address all these challenges they have in the corporate world. So I don't think you're seeing any board meetings today without automation, efficiency, and technology being discussed in one shape or form within the company.
You meet a lot of founders in the day job, like what's your top tip, and what's the biggest sort of frown that you've had in terms of how people approach you and are, I suppose it's a real turn-off, so to speak.
Yeah, so first of all, I think as a firm, and I guess all the venture funds say this, but as a firm, I think we are quite approachable. We are a friendly bunch.
Yeah, you are.
And we get suggested deals through all channels. And the eye of the needle is not that big. So we need to, first of all, filter it down in order to spend time on the right ones. So it's always better to get introduced by someone. Meaning there's social channels that exist today. Someone always knows someone that we know us, if you don't know us directly. So, but over and above that, basically build. If you want to work with a venture fund, build relationships. We have some companies that we are following. They're tremendous. Are just basically 6 bullet points every 2 months. You feel like you know them. So build relationships. Be good at communication. When you are an investor, or when you have an investor like us, basically you gotta communicate. And we are of the opinion we can solve any problem. We think we have the skills or the network to solve any problem. So give us the bad news. communicate. I mean, I'd rather have the news when it happens and not after 48 hours when you've slept on it or haven't slept at all. So because then that gives us 48 hours head start to basically help solving that with you. And you know, shit happens. I mean, it's like it's business. So these things happen. There is you're getting cut out from a partner, funding drops, or the product fails. But listen, we've dealt with that before, so we can deal with it again. So, but just communicate. Let us know. We are always there. I mean, more or less. I mean, Dennis is on 24/7, so I'm sort of 18/7, but is and when you are working with someone like us, we are ambitious. You got to show that ambition as well. We also got to be humble. When you succeed, you gotta take success the right way, because that is just one milestone. Then why not look for the next milestone and give something back to the next wave of entrepreneurs? Treat people nicely, because you always come a long way. That doesn't mean you can't be hard, but you can always find a balance between treating people nicely and being hard and ambitious at the same time. And then I elaborated on that earlier. Treat us as a resource. We are there to help. We're not there to put up additional barriers for you. We ask questions either because we're not as knowledgeable as you, or we want to bring some suggested new things in, or come with a solution when you have a problem. Yeah, and be honest, basically. That I think that is, like, you come a long way with that.
We have a large number of listeners who are perhaps budding venture capitalists. I think I read recently that venture capital is the hedge fund of the 1990s, and super sexy, super exciting area to be in. I mean, would you have any words around that? Any advice? Is that a misconception? Are what the press write and what maybe the realities of the day job are? I mean, what would you say probably are the misconceptions around VC?
I mean, press hasn't helped. So what we read in the paper is not always right. They're portraying this romantic view of venture capital as a profession and venture capital as a job, and it is far from the picture that is being painted in the press. You gotta, if you want to get into venture capital and become a venture capitalist, you need to be super curious. You need to be able to deal with uncertainties all the time. You need to be able to say no most of the time. You're dealing with problems and issues all the time. I mean, it's like every day there's a new issue, and you need to have thick skin in order to deal with those. You also need to be almost jack of all trades, because there's so many areas you move between. Finance is just a small part of it. I think you deal with social issues, you deal with psychology, you deal with HR, you deal with economics, you deal with politics. I mean, you move, and that's what makes it exciting as well. The other misconception is I think, just because you are super intelligent and you have been the best banker in the city, or have been the best R&D person at Cambridge, or you have been the super McKinsey consultant, it doesn't make you an investor, because there is a different skill set required, and it's probably the apprentice profession. I can't think of anything else than venture capital. That is the apprentice profession. And I typically say you are not a educated venture capitalist before you have seen a full cycle. So a cycle can be from sourcing, investing, portfolio management, dealing with issues, exiting. Or a cycle can be an economic cycle, where you're seeing peaks and troughs. But that is 5 to 7 years to become an educated venture capitalist, and you need to be long term. I always say that they're always, if there's monetary ambitions, venture capital is not for you, because short term you're not going to make any money. Longer term you may make money. So you got to be long-term greedy and do things the right way in order to succeed in venture capital. And if you're good, you will reap the rewards from it through building and selling good companies. And I also I may sort of shoot an arrow at the LP community. I think there's some immaturity there, because I think many of them don't understand fully what the venture capital profession is all about beyond numbers. I think, but I think they are developing and they are learning, and there's a big gulf of knowledge and skills between the US and Europe there. So, but they're catching up.
Great points. So look, Kjartan, we're coming to near the end of the podcast, which you've given us some amazing insights, and thank you for all of those. We always like, you're a human being, we always like to ask, outside of VC and all the hard work you do at Concentric, if you have any time to do other stuff, which I think you do, because you're a pretty sociable person.
Those other 6 hours that you said.
Yeah.
Where do you what keeps you busy outside of the business?
Yeah, so as I said, I live in Denmark. I typically commute back and forth between London and Copenhagen and other hubs in Europe. But right now I spend time in Copenhagen. I'm looking after my house and my family. I'm trying to play a bit of football. A number 9, of course. And I'm watching my beloved Liverpool. So they could need an injection of vitamins for the time being. But I'm a long-term Liverpool supporter, and through thick and thin, I like fishing. So I'm brought up in northern Norway. That was part and parcel of both summer and winter life there. And unfortunately, fishing is not as good in Denmark, but I still keep doing it. I'm involved in a charity called Right to Play. It's a global charity, and the purpose of Right to Play is to bring educational programs, play and sport to 20 countries around the world in Asia and Africa. So I'm on the board of that. I have a couple of smaller projects in my hometown that I'm involved in, but nothing that takes up any much of time. And I like to read and write. I read a lot, both fiction and non-fiction. And
anything to recommend at the moment?
I was going to ask, do you publish your recommended reading list, or?
No, I don't. But I read a lot about the way technology was formed at the moment and the way finance was formed. I like history around the families that formed finance, whether they're called the Wahlbergs or Lazards and etc. And also around technology. It's interesting to see how technology has been a result of the society and the way it's prospered in the US versus Europe, we've missed 3 waves now. Hopefully, the 4th wave will be a part of. It seems like. So and then I write. I write a monthly column in Forbes.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and they've been kind enough to give me sort of carte blanche to write about anything within innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture capital, as long as I stay away from politics. So that is.
I think we all do that.
Yeah, and so that one is quite enriching actually to think of an audience that's broader than my typical audience, and the way you need to formulate and what points you need to make in order to make it interesting. So that is so there's quite a few things that I'm trying to fill my time outside of work with.
Yeah, you certainly keep yourself busy, mate.
You weren't lying about 18/7, eh?
But the good thing about the venture capital profession is that everything you do has a relevance towards your profession. So if you want to do marketplaces for hairdressers, when you are the hairdresser, you can discuss it with your hairdresser. So to give you an example, so it all has, because it will come in useful as a due diligence contact or co-investor or an employee or a partner or just someone to test an idea on. So everyone is relevant.
That's good. And then and one last one before we go. Obviously, I've attended your great event in Oslo in the past. I'm curious. Is it online this year? Is it still going ahead? You know, obviously we had the great Glastonbury cancelled here in the UK yesterday. So which I was very disappointed about. And you know, I'm obviously keen to go to Oslo again. So I'd be doubly disappointed today if that's off the cards this year, or what's the plan there?
I mean, just an anecdote regarding from when Bloomberg and Concentric did it first time. What has happened in the ecosystem in Oslo or in Norway is amazing. I mean, it's like, and I think we should pat ourselves on the shoulder. We've been contributing towards that because the investors we brought along, they've ended up investing in Norway, and we opened the door for them. So it's great. We had to cancel it last year, or we postponed it. It is due to go ahead in April. That was clearly not going to happen. So we are debating at the moment whether to push it into June or even later in the year. But we're going to try, because part of the value is to basically meet up without having to set off 2 or 3 days. This is basically for half a day, very efficient, compact, but focus on a small group where the people get to know the companies and each other, who the main sort of ecosystem players are in Norway. So it is going ahead, but we're debating it as we speak.
Okay. Well, look, for anyone who's listening or watching, it's a great event, and obviously they can reach out to you via your website, I suppose, or via LinkedIn if they want to come along.
Yeah, and also techexcursion.com. We have that URL.
Great. All right. Well, look, thank you, my friend, and thank you for taking the time and giving us some great insights, great observations, and really great advice for both founders and fundsters, so to speak, or found stars and fund stars. And look, take care. I hope 2021 is kind to you, and hopefully we'll see you again on the podcast in the next 6 or 12 months, so you can come back and update us. Okay, mate.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Cheers.